Hi, hello. It's Saif.
Hi. Hi, Chef.
Yeah.
Hi, Alpana. Hi, Mark. How are
Hello.
you guys doing?
Yeah, fine. How are you doing?
Good. Good, thank you. Any questions from our previous sessions?
Hello.
Hello?
Hello. Okay.
Yeah.
So I just watched the last session, the
Mm-hmm.
video recorded one, and then you briefly talked about multi-fact tables. All right. And the
Right.
example you had the same columns, same schema, same structure, right? Now,
Right.
the other cases I need to bring different two tables with a different structure, but each one share some columns, same, but not
And
everything. Can
but
I
it's
still
gonna
use
share
that?
some attributes also, right? So the attributes will be same for both the facts,
Yeah,
right? Or do
yeah,
you?
yeah. Some shares, but some are not. In that case,
Okay.
can I still use that same methodology to
Yeah. So
concatenate?
yes, you can do that. So
Okay. So just like that, I don't have to yeah.
yeah. So there are different methods of managing
Yeah.
multi-fact tables.
Yeah.
So I will go through one or two methods because again all the methods are not the preview of this training, but this concatenate is one of the best methods to take care of the multifacts and is the
Okay.
most primary method. So the link tables are a good method, but they get too complicated and you end up doing a lot of other work. Now what happens is, so I'll explain the concept of multifacts. Yeah, before that, anybody else has any other questions? Okay. So I'll take a simple example of multifact. Okay, so this is one of the biggest challenge of multifact. So we will have transactional data. So let's say I have invoice ID, date. Okay. For example, I'll take month also. Month, year, team, amount. Okay. I have data for 10 months. So that is what this has. Or I can pull up this for 12 months. Okay. I have data for 12 months, date now. So if I take the month of this field, it is nothing but it will give me Jan, Feb, March. So it's giving me this. And year of this will give me this serial number. So we'll do this in scripting. We have an option to create month, year, and all. We'll talk about it. I'm just explaining this thing. So let's say this team is team 1, team 2, 2. So these are transactional data. So this is the actual. So you want to do any analysis on this, this becomes one of the facts. So you create actual, you create invoice ID, you create month. You can load this data and write out. So if you give sum of amount, will give you the total sales amount. So if you want the sum of amount for team 5, so you just sum up the amount value of team 5. It will give you a total value of 50. Now every month has its one team has like over here it's not the best of the example, but every month one team has its value. Or to be very precise, what I'll do is I'll just take one month on. So I've taken only 4 months. There are 4 months. In month 1, team 1 has couple of value, team 2 has couple of value. Now the second fact which generally is always there is the budget. Budget is one of the, like, generally it's stored as a separate table, and it is either it's in table or in Excel file or anything. It becomes of like a second fact to us. Now in budget, generally what happens is you won't have invoice ID. You might just have team, month, year, and budget amount. Okay, so it will just have team 1. What I'll do is team 2, team 3. I'm just going to have 3 teams, team 1, team 2, team 3. So budget is just going to have like this. For team 1, month 1, all the teams will have budget for 3 months, right? All the 3 months, right? They'll just have like this. Second month. Third month. So for team 1, for the first budget or target or whatever you want to call will be around 70, 80, 90, 100, 60, 70, 80. So this is our budget. Now if you want to compare team 1's performance against the annual budget, so what you'll have to do is first take the annual budget of team 1, so that totals up to 250, because all these 3 things put together, against the total value of whatever sales team 1 has done for all the months, right? Till month 3 only. Total for 4 months it is 130 against 250. Now it becomes of a very big challenge for you to actually create this link this budget to the value. So if you look at it, if in Qlikview terminology, if you have to link these 2 tables, you will have to link it on month, year, team, and month, year, team. Then you will be able to do the sum of amount and sum of budget. But that linking becomes very challenging. So this is a typical like a multi-fact table. Imagine if you have couple of more columns in budget, right? If you have 10 or 15 other columns, which will be like different attributes, which are there in the transactional table also. In the transactional table also, you have around 10 or 15 columns identical to budget. Now these 2 becomes 2 different fact tables. Now managing them through link table or creating them a link on composite key and all is a challenge. So in Qlikview, what we do is, so let's load this in Qlikview, then I'll demonstrate it. When I loaded, like I said, typically it formed a synthetic key because of the 3 links. Now if I have to eliminate the synthetic key, I'll have to make sure that, okay, I create one composite key and do this. And then, like, if I have to bring out a sum of sales, right, let me just put up sum of sales. I'll just put the team name, okay, year, month, nothing else. I'll take sum of amount, right? So this will be my sum of amount. So I'm getting total 360 for team 1 month wise. I'm getting that, right? If I want the total value, then I'll have to just remove the month. So for 2014, I'll get the total value of team 1, team 2, team 3. If I have to again show it against budget, I just have to add another column in Qlikview. So basically, apart from amount, I'll have to add sum of budget. So it gives me against the budget, it shows me how much I'm doing, to 330, 320. Now the challenge is how to resolve this synthetic key. Right? You can't have a synthetic key in table. If you try to do it also, it becomes a little challenge. So you know that the team is 1, okay, team is same, month is same, year is same. So what in Qlikview we do is, like if the columns are identical, like last time I said, right, if the columns are identical, it will go ahead and concatenate by itself. When the columns, if the columns are not identical, you can forcefully, you can just write a statement before this, concatenate. Okay, the syntax is the same thing like joins. So you say concatenate, reload. So what Qlikview does is, in the backend, it will not check for any duplicate records or anything. Based on the columns, it will concatenate. Wherever there is no common column, right, Qlikview will automatically create that column, and it's like that outer join, right? So when you use the outer join, so here the first 10, 12 records don't have the budget, so there is blank. But over here, the next couple of records have the budget. Over here, you don't have the invoice ID, date, or amount. Over here, you have the amount. Now, in a normal scenario, what happens is, instead of writing having 2-3 different tables, my table is still 1. Okay, my expressions are still the same, but I can easily get my analysis done. Now, in this example, it might not find that relevant to you. Imagine if you have hundreds of attributes around this linked, right? So you can link the attribute to team, and team will work for both the fact, the budget, and the actuals, right? Because team is same column. Now in Qlikview, in modeling also, it's like you link the attribute to team, you link the attribute to year, month. Maybe if you have couple of other columns over here, you might have location, you might have region, you might have cost of accounts, you might have cost centers, anything. You link the attributes to those columns, but when you make a selection in a particular column, in a separate column, right? So this column will get filtered, and everything, both the facts will get filtered, right? So the first fact is the invoicing data, transactional data will get filtered. Along with that, even the budget will get filtered, and you will get appropriate budget. What I mean, if you exactly see is, I can go ahead and put a attribute which is linked to team, and when I make a team selection, it will give me only that. So that amount and that budget. Now you are on safer side because you don't really have to worry what will happen to this sum, because these are blanks, these are not even nulls. So it's like budget does not have budget for the actual records, and actual records don't have actual value for the budget records. So that way you can manage multi-facts. So this is one of the kind of the most often used method to manage multiple facts. When there is a real thing where you can't at all join two tables and or create this kind of association or join two tables like this, you end up using link tables.
Okay, oh, that's good. Right. So that's the in your experience, is that the best way of working with the multiple fact tables? Let's say I have two fact tables. Let's say I'm expecting to join at least about 3 or 4 fact tables, and some of fact tables will not have any common attributes. Is it still okay to combine? Because I realized that Qlikview prefers one fact table only in per application, right?
Right.
Yeah, so that's what I read, and then so I was thinking, okay, even if the two fact table doesn't share any common attributes, is it the best way to just concatenate the tables like that?
See, if two facts, you'll have to. I mean, there will be no. I mean, in my experience, at least the minimum linking that you'll have is the month and year for the facts, right? If you're talking about two facts, am I right?
Yeah.
Right. So
Okay.
in case,
yeah. You should at least maybe date dimension. Maybe there will be
exactly.
some kinds
when you're
of
loading two facts.
Because what I'm trying to do is in one application, I like to have two completely different data, but people doesn't. Instead of people goes to different application, I want to have one place for people to go and then find some information instead of visiting multiple places. Like for example, in Microsoft SSAS, I can actually create multiple fact tables which has no relationship with, but as long as they share the same dimension, they can, or it doesn't really matter. It's like as long as some dimension is associated with certain fact tables, they can just drag and drop. When Qlikview, it looks like you have to have everything in one place. Like, so you?
But I mean, two different fact tables, but you're telling they share same dimension.
Yeah, actually, if they share same dimension, of course they will share some attributes. Yeah, so there are some attributes we share, I guess. But just in case, I'm just making it making a extreme case, I guess. Even if there's no, like maybe just 1 or 2 dimension shares, or maybe just there's no same attributes at all. In that case, would you still combine these those two tables, fact tables like that? I'm just making an extreme case, I think. I just curious how this will work in Qlikview.
You can do this method. So if at all there is nothing, right? So what will happen is, suppose I'll just make this the team 1.
Yeah. Yeah, so just like that.
These two tables are not sharing anything. So if you reload also, what will happen is the final table will be something like this.
Just like that.
Yeah. It's gonna be, so for the first 12 records, all the values. For the next, it will be like this. So even if you do your analysis now, right? So if you take count of team 2, so we have team 2, right? So let's see this. We have team 1. So if you want to identify how many are there in team 1, so you can still go ahead and put your analysis. So you can do it this way also.
Yeah. Because I think there are cases where.
So your counts and your analysis won't miss out. So it is still showing 12 only, because the next records are 12. So if you take the team, if you want. Because 3 months I have put, so if you take sum of budget over here, right? Because the other values are blank, so it will always give you the only whatever value is there. Right? So you can do it this way. You can do a concatenation. So here absolutely nothing is in line. You can link the attributes. You can have, like I said, in Qlikview at least, I mean, you will end up doing it. So even if you give 2 different facts to people, what people would want to do is click on a date and see values in both the fact for that particular date, right? At least that's the barest minimum you'll end up having in an application. So link it, align it with the date, and then link the attributes around it.
Okay. Yeah. Can I have another question? Qlikview Sense. Have you looked at Qlikview Sense? Have you actually tried a little bit, or does the Qlikview Sense also share the same data model like this one, multiple fact table shown in this way in Qlikview Sense, and Qlikview Sense will handle. Just like.
Right. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. All right.
It does.
Yeah. Okay. So whatever we use in building this data model, we can apply to Qlikview Sense. Is that right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Okay.
All right. Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the concatenate table. So like you can have, I mean, you don't really have to have common, but the only reason why you do such thing is when you are loading two fact tables. Now fact is like, if I have to give you a real scenario, so in SAP you have, or in, not in SAP, basically in a manufacturing company, right? You have this vendor management. Now vendor management is like in, if the organization is using SAP, there will be some vendor management like tables or in the process of in SAP. Now you get all the vendor data from SAP, and there is this quality management which generally happens in SAP or which doesn't happen in SAP. But with my experience, what happens is quality and this vendor PO and AP data, the actual vendor data does not have any link. When I say does not have any link, though they are like belonging to a same area of business, quality in manufacturing is a totally different kind of a database, and this PO or the AP finance data is totally different. These are two facts. Now if you are doing a vendor management or a scorecard, which I did, requires both the data. So the vendor has to be parameterized on his payment methods and payment timelines and delivery. Quality is basically how many goods did he deliver, what was his quality, I mean how many products, how much of raw material was rejected. So this is a typical quality measure that is there. Now they technically have nothing. They don't even have the vendor in common. All they have is like the actual purchase order. Based on that, how much delivery came in. Or here you have the purchase order. On that, what is the payment process, everything. You had, and what they have in common is the dates. Now the only method was we could have created link table, but it didn't really help us out in level. So the method that we applied was we just concatenated the facts. So we kept them two separate facts. The only common thing was, like I said, was the PO and the dates. Apart from that, the quality measures were totally different. The PO processing measures were totally different. We ended up having something like this with one or two columns in common. That helped us out, and we could build an application or do the parameterized course on the vendor. Yeah. That's the concatenate option. Concatenate is also one method to eliminate synthetic keys. So right, we were looking at different methods. In the beginning we saw different methods of synthetic key. Eliminating synthetic key, concatenate is one method. And join too. So join also you can, like you know, right, if you do a left join, two tables become one. So when you have couple of values or fields which are creating synthetic keys, you think if you join it will resolve. You can resolve the synthetic key using join, or you can resolve it by concatenation, just like this. So if there are 10, if you are loading two tables, okay, 10 columns are common between those two tables. Either you left join, and if you think that joins will not really help your data, do a concatenation. So the 10 fields, common fields will concatenate each other. The two uncommon will be separate. But you will get rid of synthetic keys, and you will still maintain the attributes, same attributes. Okay. Any question? So these are actual data model that we were loading, and this yeah, I was showing how do we do left join. So that we did. Now suppose you want to have this table. We'll look at another method of loading data. Now I have this sales order, right? So I have the two facts over here. So one is sales order header. One is sales order detail, right? I have done a left join. So ultimately, I have only one table in my entire data model. I have sales order header. Now over here, I have order quantity, I have unit price, right? Now my total sales amount is order quantity into unit price. So there are two ways of doing it. Either I don't have to do this in the script model at all. I can directly do it at the UI level where I can do all the calculations. But there will be a scenario where you will have to do this sort of a calculation, right? You'll have to pre-calculate in the script. So there are a couple of reasons for it. One is your entire analysis is based on this, okay? So you need to create one extra column so that it will, if you don't create this, you'll end up doing this unit price into sum of order quantity in the UI. So in the UI, the more you use formula or the more complex your calculation is, the more it becomes slow for the user to use it. When I say slow, it is not like a typical slow thing. It is just little lag. So when the user clicks, it will take brief seconds to calculate. But if the more lesser complex the formula is, as soon as the user clicks, the solution will be available, will pop up. To reduce that, when you see your application gets a little lousy in the UI, so that is where you transfer all the complex formulas from the UI to the backend. You see where all you are using the same repeated formula in the entire UI, put this into the backend script and create a column for it. Just like this, unit price into order quantity is a general thing which is always used. So you don't keep doing it in the UI, put up a formula over here. So now I have done a left join, I am loading this, I have done this calc. I've created a sales order header option. Now if I want to do this, now I don't know how to what I mean is I did a left join, sales order detail. Now I want to multiply order quantity into unit price. Either way, before doing the left join, I can do it. But in my case, I want to do it after the left join. So now I have to reprocess this table to do this calculation, right? So I'll have to reload this entire table, sales order header once again, and process it. So what I can do is, I can just say this is temp, sales order header temp. Okay. So this method is called as reading the data from the memory again. So I have called the table temp. I will create another actual table over here, sales order header. Under this, I'll say load star. There is something called as a resident load in Qlikview. A resident load is nothing but reading data from an existing table in the memory during the runtime. What I mean is, so now the script will start from here, temp. It will read this. It will perform the where exist from the temp table. Sales order header temp will get loaded. A left join will happen, the drop table. Now again, I'm referring back to the sales order header temp and loading the sales order header data. Right? This is called resident load. Now what I'll do is, I'll go ahead and update the values over here. So I'll say order quantity into unit price as sales amount. Right. So I'll just update this. Now in the end, once this is done, I don't need two tables, right? It will create synthetic keys, and of course I don't. Why would I need two tables? I can just put drop table temp. So this is like something that we generally do. We keep reloading or reading data from the. This is like the reprocessing the data, resident load using the existing. Not necessarily you'll always have to use this for calculation bit, but there are different requirements that you use where you'll have to read data from a same table again and again, right? Suppose if I had to do this, if I had to load this data from a QED again, it is not a nice thing, right? So I can do a resident load. keep reading the data from the memory. Resident load is faster than reading data from a QED or from any Excel file or from any database file. Another type of basically. So what all loads did you see? SQL select, load statement, resident load. We also saw in SQL statement, we saw preceding load. So we'll see the other loads while we follow. Now this is one method of doing it. Others, yeah, if you don't want to do this resident load and all, you can directly multiply it over here and create a column over here, and then you can use the sales amount. If you look at this, what happens is it will process that sales header. I have the sales amount over here, right? In the end of it, I have the sales amount which has been processed. So that way I can do my processing, whatever. Now you remember I had told that we should break the QED optimization, right? The moment you put this form here, right? Sales order quantity into unit price over here. The moment you update that, the QED optimization is going to break. Right. So if you see this, sales order header, QED optimized, sales order detail, QED optimized. Right. From this sales order header is the resident load. So this is one of the methods to make sure Qlikview QED loads are QED optimized loads. That's why we don't update, or that's one of the reasons why you would not do it at the first level. Like I said, you can directly update the order quantity into unit price in this place. This is one of the reasons that you don't do it. You basically do make sure all the loads, first time loads from the QEDs are all optimized. Then you use resident load methodology and process the data. Over here, it doesn't matter how many times I update whatever formula I want to. It will not hamper my loading capability, QED load. So from the QEDs, I'm loading for the first time, it is QED optimized. So that is one of the methods to make sure your loads are always QED optimized. Here only I can write that if formula, like if you remember this online order flag, right? This was breaking my QED optimization. So how do I achieve it? Method to achieve it. So I can do a resident load, then I can put my whatever processing requirement I want to. It won't break the rest. It won't QED loads. I'll have my data still. I'll have the online order flag too. Yeah, you'll have to, the question comes is how many times, or do we need to do every table, or how is it required, or when exactly to use it? See, it is simple kind of a rule. Not a rule. It's like your experience and what you do it. Try to do it here only. See how much load time is it taking without a QED optimization load. Now, if you're loading for a QED file which has only 1 lakh records, right? You go ahead and do it. Or if it has 10 lakh records, anything that is taking like less than a minute to load, I think you can do it directly. Now where you will have tables where you have billions of records, right? From there, while you're loading, if you try to break the QED optimization, then it becomes it might take a longer time. Or there you might save a lot of time by using QED optimization load and then doing a resident load. So that will be your call. So look at how your data is processing and how it is working, and then you can do it. So that's one thing. Now imagine okay. So a lot of people do this, okay. So what they do is, suppose I don't do this order quantity, okay, I'll not do this. They will say that what they want is, they want a secondary table. So this sales order temp is there, right? So it's this sales order temp. They want another table, sales order header. They want, the requirement is not a realistic requirement, but sometimes while doing testing, they expect two tables to be in the data model. So they want the sales order temp as well as sales order header. So what they do is, they simply go ahead, change the name of the table, do a load star resident, and save it and do it. So what do you guys think? How many tables will be there?
2.
2? Sure?
Just guessing.
We have to. No guessing over here. We just saw this concept 2 minutes back. Right? What did I say? Like, okay, I think last class I did when you were not there. And I repeated it this morning. When you have two tables with identical columns, load star is doing nothing. It's getting all the columns from the first table. Yeah.
Yes.
The end of it, it's like it becomes a one column only, one table only, right? Now what I did was, I'm dropping that table. One table, the table is gone. Right? This table sales order header will not be created. The data will be concatenated to the sales order temp, and I'm dropping the sales order temp over here. So my entire table is gone. So that is one. If I don't drop it, then I'll have one. So I have one big table. So people will be thinking, where is my second table? Why is my second table not loading? So there's like a lot of queries that I get because of this. They say that, okay, we are doing this, I'm not able to see the second table. Technically what is happening is, one big table with all the records updated twice will be available. So that is something that you'll have to be a little careful while doing it, or you run into this kind of a scenario, always observe this. Now what is the solution for this? Suppose you want this sales order temp header with different column names. So one solution is simple. Alias all the column names, right? Load order quantity as blah blah, something you can load. So it becomes a too tedious job. So you'll have to list down all the fields and alias it. So in Qlikview there is something called as qualify, a function for this. It says qualify star. Okay. What qualify does is, I have this sales order header. So you know in this SQL, right, you use the column name for a field name. Sorry, table name for a field name. I'll just unqualify this, unqualify star. What Qlikview does, after the qualify star option, it will start adding the name to all the field names. So if you look at it, the sales order head temp, the sales order header, second table is where I added this qualify, right? So the qualify has just added all the field names with the column name, table name.
Okay.
Where you have all the columns as common, and you think it is your concatenation is not gonna help you, you use qualify. So qualify statement. Qualify does this, it will start appending the table name to the column field names. you need not have to do it for one table. See, I've done it only for one table. So how did I control it? I used a qualify star and an unqualified star. By default, it is always unqualified star. Even if you don't mention, that's why none of the tables are there. Now, if by choice, you put this qualify star at the beginning, right? Just say qualify star, and you don't unqualify anywhere. So Qlikview is gonna qualify all the tables. Qualify for tables. So it's basically qualify star is a trigger, is a starting point. Wherever you mention that, from that point, Qlikview will start qualifying all the field names with the table names. Now, if you want to stop it, if you just want to do it for a particular table, you will have to do what I did. Just qualify at that point of time, right? Suppose I qualify here, sales order header. I just right away after that unqualified star. Right. So this is how. Now, but my requirement is I need to have second table, but the sales order ID should be linked, right? So I have to link the sales order ID to this main table so that whatever analysis I want to do should be. So in that scenario, I just have to unqualify one particular field, right? Sales order ID. So in Qlikview you can do this. This star is nothing but select star kind of a statement. So I've used star over here. So I'm qualifying all the values in the field. So if I mention a selected field, right? So I can say unqualify particular fields. Qlikview is gonna qualify only these 5 fields. If you want to see this, reload. Okay, it's forming a big synthetic key. Okay, it's gonna take a second.
No.
Okay, I think it is creating a too big synthetic key. I'll just abort this. So I think I will not be able to qualify. Oh here I'll just keep this as qualify star. I'll just use a different table for. I'll just do a debug load. We'll come back to this debugger. Don't worry about it. I'll explain in detail. I'm just trying to show you that how qualify or unqualify works. So the lesser number of records, the faster it will reload. And okay, I did qualify star. Keys are being very too much to manage for Qlikview, so it's not loading it. What I'll do is I'll just put star. Let me demonstrate it to you elsewhere with a couple of records and couple of tables. Let me the ID. So, so when you're doing resident, there's no from statement. It's just resident territory. Qualify. Instead of giving field names, what I'm going to give is I'm going to give only particular field, all of them. I'll have to give the field names after the aliases that have been used in the table. So in a script, you can have n number of times qualify, unqualify. If you look at set qualify, unqualify, what I'll do is I'll reload. So if you look at it, Qlikview qualified only couple of fields and unqualified the rest of fields. So the fields that I mentioned were qualified, the fields that I didn't mention were unqualified, and they formed a synthetic key. So that's how you can control which columns or which fields you want to qualify or unqualify, right? So here I have this. Now in my application over here, like I said, I can say unqualified, qualify couple of things. Same way I can use qualify star and unqualify couple of things. I want this table to be linked with sales order ID. So after qualify star, I'm going to use unqualify star. I'm just going to say unqualified sales ID. So my qualify star will start the process of qualifying all the field names with the table names. Unqualify this particular field will just make sure that this field is unqualified and then load the table. Unqualified star will stop the qualify effect. If I reload this, end of it, what will happen is I'll have both the tables but linked with sales order. So this way you can eliminate synthetic keys. You can create multiple tables, or how like you can use this qualify star and unqualify to control your tables. Is this helpful?
Yes.
All right. So this was about qualify, resident load, and this. Let's deal with a little next level of complexity.
Okay.
I'll get rid of this table. I don't need this anyways. Imagine if in Qlikview we don't do this, right? So I mean, the most or the best method or the best reason why we use Qlikview is we try to have the most granular level data without being having to process it a lot. So that one of the reasons is the user wants to drill down to the most granular level data. So we keep as simple as the tables can be, so without doing any joins or anything. The joins are the extreme cases where you need to process data. So Qlikview does suggest the star schema, but snowflake schema is what most of the projects end up in. The reason being the backend data is if the backend data is coming from a data warehouse, then definitely you can have a star schema. If the backend data is not in a data warehouse, then you'll end up doing a lot of processing to create the star schema. But instead of spending so much time, use the associative property of Qlikview. And if it is a snowflake schema, it is still okay. So this is one of the methods. So sales order header, sales order detail, and product ID. So it's like a snowflake schema. But now if you look at it, order detail and sales order header temp have the fact in them. So here you have the fact, sales order, order quantity, unit price, have the tax amount. But because of the sales order ID, they will get linked and appropriately it will start working. That is one of the factors. Now, let's say if you get another table, okay, so it might be a temp table. So I'll just load the temp table over here, right? I'll say it's load inline. Now, this is territory ID. So territory ID table, ID column. We have 10 territories in this application. In this 10 territory, I'll say updated, or I'll say extra tax amount, right? I'll say 10%, 20%, or 20%, 12%, 15%, 10%. Now this is the extra tax amount that the government is adding for us, or this is what I have to pay for these individual territories, right? So I have the normal tax amount that my application is calculating, but these are something one-time extra, or maybe not one-time. It's like it's not built in the application. The transactional system doesn't capture this. You have to manually add this, or currency conversion rates or anything. So this is one of the examples. Now I have my territory ID over here. Right. I'll use the same field over here. Now this tax amount has to be multiplied to the tax amount over here. This tax amount. Now I have the separate tables. Obviously I can't do it. I can't multiply extra tax amount to total tax amount. I can do it at the UI, but like I said, this will because this being a repetitive process, I want to do it in the script. The one method that the normal database experts do is do a left join, right? Do a left join using the territory ID. The extra amount is going to come in this table. Okay. But the extra step that you do is you will have to again do a resident load so that you can actually multiply the extra tax amount with the total tax amount. Are you following what I am talking about? I mean, am I too fast or too confusing?
I'm following.
So what you'll have to do is end of it is so left join. If I mention the column name also, it's so. Now the extra tax amount is going to be there. To process that extra tax amount, I'll have to load this into a and then say this. I'll name it as temp. In a normal database method also it is this long, and if you go with the traditional Qlikview method also, this is the, in the normal Qlikview method, this takes a longer time. What Qlikview did was gave us an extra functionality. I'll show that as updated tax amount, resident sales order 10. So this way I'll be able to calculate the updated. So this is like a 3-step, 4-step process which I have to do in a normal database or over here. So first get the table, get that field over there, then calculate the updated tax amount. So I have the updated tax amount here. Instead of this, what Qlikview did was to avoid this kind of heavy processing or this kind of long processing. So Qlikview gave us something called as mapping load. Okay, I'll just show you two steps. This is one is the mapping load. Instead of doing a join, so joins. Okay, one more scenario is this join. I did this over here, right? So I joined this in this first table. Imagine if I have to apply this tax amount to 10 other tables. Not that you'll do it for attributes, but there might be a requirement where you'll end up adding this extra tax amount to 10 different tables. What you'll have to do is again do the same exercise, do a left join, do a temp table, drop it, and process it. You'll once for this table, once for the other table, and the final. Like the number of tables, you'll have to keep doing the number of left joins, and left joins is little costly. So what Qlikview did was, wherever you have a scenario like this, Qlikview brought in something called as mapping loads. It says mapping. You just name that load as, suppose I say is as tax, table name is tax, apply mapping. Now this load becomes a temporary load. It will be available only during the runtime. So let's see this. I have to comment this out, otherwise it's gonna fail. The tax table is loaded, right? 10 lines have loaded based on my script, but they will not be, that table will not be there in the backend. So it's just a runtime load. So once I have that, so what I can do is, you know Vlookup in Excel, right? And have you guys worked on Vlookup? In Excel, Microsoft Excel. Okay, what Vlookup does is, over here I have the territory ID, right? It will take a value of territory ID. It will go search in the first column that I mentioned and pass the value from the second column. We would be doing exactly the same. So there is something called as apply map. The apply map is going to take, I'll have to pass the field name over here, table name over here. The syntax is table name, comma, the field name as extra tax. Over here I don't have to pass any column or anything. I just have to pass the field name from this table, that's territory ID. I'll have to pass the table name, This column headers in the mapping table, right, doesn't matter to Qlikview. Qlikview doesn't associate or read this column name. They should be there, a particular be there. What it is, it doesn't matter to Qlikview. What Qlikview will do is, it will use the territory ID, whatever value is there in the territory ID, it will go search in the first column. It doesn't matter which is the first column over here. Whichever is the first column in this mapping table, it is going to search. Suppose if it is searching 1, it will search for territory ID 1, pass the value 10. Right? Search for territory 5, pass the value 15. So it's going to do that and it's going to load it. End of it, what I'll have is, in my sales order temp data, I'll have this extra tax field. Let's see this. On the same field name that we have used here. So that, yes, it will always return the second column. It will check in the first column, it will return the second column. the rule of mapping load is you can't have more than 2 columns. Even if you update 2 columns, the load will if you update 3 columns, it is gonna give you an error. So the mapping load table is always 2 columns, and Qlikview is always gonna check in first column, return the value from the second column. So apply map, tax, territory. Now my second load is intact, so it will process and give me the extra tax amount. So if I reload this, because of my apply map, see over here I have the extra tax amount. If you look at the tax amount, okay, I did the syntax error. So it has just passed me a generic value. I should not give this single quotes. So here extra tax amount, territory 5 is 15, and similarly territory 2 is 25, 5 is 15, right? So accordingly that is there, and my extra tax amount is calculated also, updated tax amount, right? So this is a one step. I don't have to do the join. Now the best part of this is I don't have to do this joins everywhere. I can upload one mapping load in the beginning. Over here I have uploaded. In my territory table, I can actually update this apply map again. Uncomment it. So over here I have this territory ID. What I'm going to do is add this apply map. Wherever this field is there, right? So I can use that apply map function and bring this. So I'll say territory extra tax amount so that it doesn't create a synthetic key, right? So in my territory table also, I have territory extra tax amount. So if you review it, 2 has 20, 5 has 15, based on whatever my filters. I have put some filters, right? Based on that filter also, I have got the data. So this is how you can optimize it. Otherwise, I had to do again a left join, right? So again, I had to do a left join over here to break my head. Instead of that, load once as an apply map load and use it multiple times at multiple places. So you can use as times as you want apply map. So I recently came across, while I was doing a project, this was one of the challenges that came up. So I had one table, okay, sales order header 10. I had due date. Suppose I take this order date, due date, ship date. So imagine I had order ID, ship ID, state ID, all IDs I had, all the numbers. And in the database, the specialty was all the values, right, attributes. Suppose state ID was 100. So the state was Karnataka. State ID was 200. State was Andhra Pradesh. City ID was 100. Or basically city ID was 101. So state ID was 100. All the cities were just one extra number, the next value. So city ID was 101. So the city was Bangalore. Now identically everything was there in one table only. So it was like this: 100 Karnataka, 101 Bangalore, 102 you can say Hubli. Then 200 was say Maharashtra. 201 was Mumbai. Sorry, 201. 202 was Pune. Now I had to read this, right? Pune. This was in one table. This was the ID. This was the value description. Okay. This was one table. In my actual sales order transaction table, right, I had the city ID, I had the state ID. Now the only method I could have done this was doing a 2 times left join, right? I'll have to take the same table, do a left join on ID and state ID, do a left join on ID and city ID, so that I can have those descriptions. Instead of that, I did a mapping load, use the apply map, and use the apply map formula twice. So one was for the city and second was for the state, like this. I eliminated the left join procedure or the optimization was automatically done over there. So that is the power of apply map basically. And you'll come across these situations where you'll have all the values in one table. For example, employee table, right? Employee data will have everything in one ID only. So in case you want the employee name, you'll have to do this kind of a scenario. So sounds good? No. You'll practice this. All right. Yeah, then I'll leave you for practice. So tomorrow we'll see how to eliminate this second step also, sales order header. What I would do is while doing it, just check. So while practicing the apply map, right? And like how you can use apply map. So if you could find out using apply map, you can eliminate even this step. This step is actually calculating the updated tax amount, right? Extra tax amount, total tax amount. So while doing apply map, just try to eliminate this step also. You can eliminate. So with this, I will leave you to practice and test it. Let me know tomorrow how you can eliminate this. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, Ma,
So
go ahead.
when you use apply map, what happens to those like optimize the loading QBD or is there like
It breaks.
it breaks, right? Okay, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it breaks. Like I said, anything you do apart from where exist and alias, QD optimization breaks.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, then I will wait for tomorrow. We'll catch up at the same time. Thank you, people.
Thank you.
For joining. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks.